Well, folks, I believe I've talked about this, I think, like at the beginning of Tsubasa, when I've done some of the first stories, like months and months ago, like earlier this year. I've been talking about the manga, like I would eventually read it and see this that people are talking about and what Ryukishi prepared for us and all that. Right now, I am in a state of mind where I'm not gonna lose sleep if I'm to read this stuff. In the sense that, okay, I'm gonna see what this confession at last note are gonna be about. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it in the sense that, you know how I am with that sort of stuff, that I prefer to have Umineko be an interpretive thing and think about some of the stuff and make some of these theories my own official answer, instead of having these answers be told to me. But even if right now I'm gonna be told some of these official answers, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it in the sense that, well, I am free to still interpret these answers as either something that I will accept for myself or something that I will not accept for myself. Like, I am still free to think about these answers and, you know, deny some of this stuff and think of my own interpretation and all. Even if these are coming from Ryukishi's own perspective, because, well, Ryukishi is human like everybody else. He has given his own interpretation of his own story, while we could have our own interpretation of the story. Like, for example, I have been talking with some people and they also have their own interpretation of the manga, in the sense that, hey, this artist, I think her name was called Kei Natsume, the one who did like the manga, more specifically I think the art for the last episodes and such, and I was told that it was her interpretation of how she viewed Umineko, and Ryukishi's like, okay, I approve of this, I approve of your interpretation, and that's how they viewed it. It's not necessarily a official answer to it. So, same case for me. Like, I am free to think however I want. I'm not gonna accept everything that I see here as like at face value. That's how I'm gonna approach this. I apologize if I'm not being the most coherent about this. I'm trying my best to explain it to the best of my abilities, but I think that the best thing that we could do right now is go through these stories, and I'm gonna make my own judgment about these, like, after. So, let's begin. Actually, I probably should have read that text before. Fuck! Okay. Okay.
お嬢様。
There's Beatrice in the study room.
ドラノール様がお越しになりました。
これはたかだか筋書きの確認をするだけのために異端審問官のそれも首席がお越しになるとは。大法院はよほどの暇か人余りと見える。
私が立ち会いを命じられるほどに、あなたのゲームが複雑難解かつ見事なものであるとお思いいただきたいものです。
世辞はいらぬ。座るがよい。ロノウェ、首席殿に甘い紅茶とクッキーの用意を。
かしこまりました。
結構です。それより早速拝見させていただきたいです。あなたが紡ぐ新しきゲームの筋書きを。
Okay. a.k.a. I assume to see if this confession story, like, is gonna be in accordance with the Noxus rules. So I guess there is gonna be some murder mystery in this as well, to solve. Or, I am curious. Delanor is indeed the one that you would see as the proper observer to study a story and see if anything is right or wrong and such when it comes to the murder mystery aspect. And not just that. Like, Delanor has the heart to interpret the story when it comes to the aspects of love as well. I can definitely see that. So, not someone like Ben Castel and Lambda Delta, who are, well, they are very, very hard to read and to take their opinions and thoughts seriously when it comes to a story and all that. So, yeah, someone like Delanor, someone as neutral as Delanor, she's basically perfect when it comes to this sort of stuff. And also Federin / Augustus / Ikuko, because, well, she's an author, of course.
よかろうとも。大筋はできている。物語としての就職はまだまだ途中だがな。
Battle pushed her way through a pile of manuscripts on top of her desk and pulled out a single bundle. It was the manuscript for the new game, revised countless times with various notes and tabs attached. It emanated a kind of dignified presence. Delanor gave a bow and accepted it. Then, amidst the tea vapors as Ronoe set the table, she turned over the front cover.
今回のゲームには何という名を？
まだない。わらわはいつも物語を完全に書き終えて最後に名を考えるのでな。
了解です。それでは早速拝読させていただきます。
Alrighty then.
役得と言いたいところですが、見事に整えられた物語となってからの所読となれないことが残念です。
それがデバッガーの気の毒なところよ。
今回も実に複雑怪奇な事件のようです。これが物語に昇華されたらどのようなものになるのか。
政治はよい。さっさとページをめくれ。わらわはまるで原稿を持ち込み編集者を前にした新米漫画家のような気持ちであるぞ。
Dato made a roguish smile, and Delanor returned the same expression. Delanor had in her hands the so-called unfinished manuscript. No, it was truly an unformed thing on its way to becoming a manuscript, with a plot in the middle of its construction mixed in. If we were to use Bato's style of speech, it's just as if it was the milky form of ice cream before it was frozen. No, it's probably even less complete than that. It's still egg yolk, milk, and raw cream cast to a bowl and at the height of its mixing stage. Kinda reminds me of the chick Bato, like, form as such.
まさに物語の卵です。
Delanor with glasses. My baby.
これをあなたは時間をかけてじっくりと温め、孵化させるのです。
できることならそなたには見事なアイスクリームとして完成してから賞味させたかったのであるがな。
もちろんそれが最高です。しかしこれはこれでおつなものとも思っています。
Because even if it's an incomplete state now, the recipe is still exposed. We can see the precious other side of it, the side we could never see from a completed story. I guess kinda like behind the scenes / documentary kind of story. Like, are we gonna have like extra commentary lines written inside the story as well? Those able to see this are only the witch who wrote the tale herself, and the very few observers she allows. And this is the unfinished manuscript, in a muddy chaos soup state before it becomes ice cream. In fact, it's missing the narrative development characteristic of a story. It's not even complete as any kind of reading material. However, even so, the endless witch Beatrice's secret recipe, yet discerned by no one, is recorded upon it. To a chef, the recipes in their kitchen are sacred ground. To desecrate that is the greatest sacrilege. However, for those who admire delicacies, it is also the forbidden honey that none can resist. Alright. This is not an example of one of Bato's interests, but we could instead say it's an example of one of Federan's. From here on, what is recorded is the cat's guts. I've heard of that analogy before, like tearing open the cat box, tearing open the cat's guts while reading this. From here on, turning the pages means splitting the cat's stomach open and killing it. To love the cat, then kill it and enjoy it again. Those were Ben Costello's words, but they were originally uttered by Federin. So I inquire of thee, doth thou kill the cat, or not? You know, I had my whole spiel before I pressed play on the story, like when I started this story. But now you're questioning me this again, and now I'm yeah. No. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to do this. I am prepared to see this interpretation that I'm seeing right over here. I'm not a person that will follow everything that I see with my own eyes 100%. I will not stop thinking just because I see the absolute answer here. I'll keep continuing to think even after this. The ancient Federin has regretted splitting the stomachs of and killing thousands of tails. And in the relationship of irreversity between knowing and not knowing, she even likened not knowing to that of noble virginity. Thus, I ask you again, doth thou kill the cat, or not? Beyond lies the inside of the cat's stomach. Alright, let's kill the cat. Accomplices. This time, let's make Kraus and Natsuki into accomplices. But Natsuki has a lot of pride, so even if I flashed an enormous sum of money in front of her, it's hard to imagine that she'd easily be a partner to a dreadful incident. With regards to that problem, I'll have to corner her so she has no place to run and no margin for options. After the typhoon starts, I'll secretly guide Kraus and Natsuki to the underground VIP room, reveal the bomb trigger, and threaten them. If they refuse, everyone dies. If they cooperate, those not sacrificed to the epitaph can come back alive. Okay. So it's not as if we're gonna be given some answers to some of the previous stories that we've read in the main story of Umineko, like episode 1, 2, or 3. This is gonna be like an entirely new story with the idea of official actions, such as, hey, Beatrice, the culprit, is taking accomplices with the use of gold and having them see the VIP room, having them cooperate in this. So yeah, that's kind of what they're doing over here. They're weaving like a new story with what they're writing as like official actions that the culprit would take in like the main story and such. Okay. All means to connect the island to the outside have already been completely cut off. They have no way to resist. I mean, that is an easy thing to think about during the story. I thought of that too. So, yeah. October 4, after dusk. The rain and wind are getting stronger. The typhoon is already enveloping the island in earnest. Natsuki stood frozen in front of the wide open entrance to the sacred underground staircase, and the darkness beyond.
怯えることはない。進むがよい。
Beato said that with a composed smile.
これが親父殿の秘密の通路というわけなのかね。
Ever since his childhood, Kraus believed in the existence of a secret passage and secret room that only Kyunzo knew about. But even so, when it's brazenly right before his eyes like this, he cannot enter without hesitation.
まさかクラウスまで暗闇を怯えるのではあるまいな。それともこうして礼拝堂の裏で風雨に身をさらし続けることを選ぶというのか。
この先に何があるというのかね。
その目で確かめるがよい。うすうすは想像がついているくせに。
あなた、やめましょう。きっとこれは何かの罠です。
私もできることならば、こんな薄気味の悪い階段を降りたくなどない。しかしどうやら、私たちには選択の余地はなさそうだよ。
No. You know, with all the magic that we've seen in the main story, and with people like humans using their guns to fight the magic, this combination of Beatrice wielding a freaking gun, like the imagery of Beatrice herself wielding a gun, it never crossed my mind. And it's so surreal. While grinning broadly, Battle playfully spun the sawed-off rifle held in her hand. Indeed, Kraus and Natsuki had been threatened with that gun and forced here. Okay. They had thought for certain that when they were forced here, it was to kill them in a place where no one would notice. However, now that they'd been shown this secret staircase, they were beginning to think that maybe she wasn't planned to kill them. That she knew this secret underground staircase is the cause of Battle being a witch. And she went out of her way to show it. So she probably had some other motive than to kill them. No, she definitely did. Kraus gulped deeply, and they began to slowly descend the underground stairs. Natsuki followed behind her husband. So, yeah, I guess there is no denying the existence of the staircase and the VIP room and all that. If somebody were to ever have like any doubts that these rooms ever existed in the first place. No, I have come a long way to accept such things as well. So Okay. And Dato, grinning confidently, followed after them. The enormous pile of gold in the underground VIP room. Of course, it makes Kraus and Natsu's hearts jump, but just that wouldn't make them accomplices to some kind of dreadful incident. And so, the bomb trigger was explained. Since Kraus had a good understanding of Kinzo's madness, even the embellishment that Kinzo amused himself with a trigger that would blow up the whole island wasn't something that could just be laughed off. Okay. So the confession is also talking about the existence of the bomb, which I've basically carved it into my heart that the bomb actually existed all this time. So, okay. It was important for Battle to ensure they fully understood the bomb threat and the authority that comes with it.
そんなどうしてお父様が自分の住む島にそんな爆弾を仕掛けるというのですか？
六軒島にはかつて海軍の秘密基地があり、徹底抗戦に備えて莫大な量の弾薬を備蓄していた。
I mean, I think I remember it was after episode 4, right? The investigation of episode 4? Yeah, that was when I fully explained, like, okay, it has to be a bomb. And I've given, like, all the evidence that would imply that it is a bomb. And in retrospect, the bomb explanation makes the most sense for everything, so yeah.
という話は何度か聞いたことはある。そして親父殿も命運が尽きた時には島もろともきれいさっぱり消え去るというようなことを昔言っていたような気がする。
I think this is also something that was told in the story as well. That, like, someone interpreted this as, oh, if my luck runs dry, then Kinzo would use that bomb to destroy himself. That's something in the story.
そうとも。そしてその仕掛けがこれらなのだ。その仕掛けは後宮家の真の当主に受け継がれる。つまり今はわらわだけがその仕掛けを使いこなすことができるのだ。
By activating it, the device can at any time cause a giant explosion. Bato's explanation may not be convincing enough. In that case, Genji would be there too. Also, the existence of the bombs, like themselves, is explained like one could easily explain it as them coming from the wars. Because the bombs were here in the first place because of the soldiers that inhabited it. I mean, you know, let's not forget that episodes 7 and 8, they offer like enough answers to make your own judgment about this entire thing. So I guess for those who are not very fond of this confession / manga thing, this is something that will overly explain something that those who are smart, who have thought about this, have already thought about this, I guess, if we are to think of it like that. Like, okay, this is a little bit too easy. I mean, come on, Umineko. That sort of feeling that some people are gonna have against this whole confession thing. If the same story also comes from Genji's mouth, its credibility would sharply rise.
はい。かつて親方様が作られた時限爆弾の仕掛けは、今や新しき当主、ベアトリーチェ様のものでございます。
そんな。
Hearing the same story from Genji, Natsuki was at a loss for words. And understandably so. On the island where she had spent so many years was buried an enormous amount of explosives. They could have, at Kinzo's slightest whim, or by some kind of coincidence, massively exploded. Indeed. Natsu was petrified at the reality that she was still living on such an island even. Yeah, you think back, like, someone like Natsu and Kraus who have lived on this island this entire time, to have had such a bomb that could destroy them like any point in the past. That's kind of horrifying. Like, imagine if you had something like that, like, under your house.
なるほど。恐ろしい話だよ。しかしそれは戦争中の爆薬ではないかね。それが今も起爆するとは思えんのだが。
問題ありません。親方様の命により定期的に検査を行っておりましたので。
Which, I think that is something that one would question in the main story as well, because, okay, Kinzo surely would know how to inspect those bombs, but after he died, who would inspect those bombs to make sure that they still explode, even right now? You'll be the new headmaster, Beatrice, a.k.a. Sayo, my own answer to who the culprit is. How would she know how to inspect those bombs and make sure that they are good? How did someone like Sayo / Yasu know how to inspect those bombs? How did she learn? Well, there would surely be some books in the study room or like in like the library on how to work with those kinds of bombs. Because surely there would be some manuals inside the submarine for young Kinzo to take and like take them with him and keep it with him until present day to make sure to know how to use those bombs. And thus the new headmaster would learn from that manual and thus maintain those bombs even to this day.
もちろん爆薬のテストもしたぞ。その威力は申し分ないものであった。
The Torii Gate. Yeah, like, assuming that is what they're trying to say over here, that's their interpretation of it. The fact that a bomb would be used on the Torii Gate, which I finally managed to arrive at that kind of conclusion at some point, I think. Actually, let me see. Let me remind myself, like, what? Yeah, that is actually like one of the evidences that I brought up during that bomb explanation, when I fought off the bombs for the first time. Like after episode 4, I believe. Like one of the evidences is that, well, how did the Torii Gate manage to disappear? Because of the bombs, of course. That's one of the evidences that I brought up at that point. Let's see if they're gonna bring it up here. Like, if that's where they want to go with this as well.
あの程度の量であれだけの威力を見せたのだ。少なくともこの屋敷を中心に数百メートルを完全に吹き飛ばすなど造作もないことであろうな。
爆薬のテスト？
そうであるとも。爆薬の威力を実験するためにあるものを爆破したのだ。そなたたちもよく知っていたものだ。
Kraus and Natsuki looked at each other. They didn't remember there being any kind of big explosion anywhere nearby. Either because it was, like... I mean, in this case, if it is the Torii Gate the way I am thinking of... You know, distances are something that I'm still struggling with when it comes to Umineko, like the distance between places and such. But it is to be assumed that either the Torii Gate was too far away for the explosion to be felt, even though one would argue that you'd still feel it. That or... No, hold on a second, no. The event that we've seen in episode 2, like at the beginning of episode 2, like when we've seen Shannon cry at the altar, it was during the rain with the storms and such. So there you go. The explosion would be masked by the funders and such. Reason why nobody would even think about it. Like, nobody would even know when that happened. It could have been that... well, let's see, like the family definitely knows that the Torii Gate disappeared eventually. It's just that one day they would discover, what the fuck? Where's the Torii Gate? Where the fuck did it go? They would not even know, like, when it happened. It could have been like one day after that they discovered, like Natsuki and Kraus discovered. It could have been like 1 week after, maybe like a month. You don't know. Struggling her shoulders with a smile, Dato signaled to Genji to explain it to them.
旦那様、お忘れですか。鎮守の社のこと。
鎮守の社。
The local shrine built on the reef just a little ways off from Rokenjima's port. Last year it was demolished by some large wave or lightning or something. They hadn't really thought about it much. But there's no way some large wave would wash away the whole shrine, let alone the reef. There was a group among the servants who said purple lightning fell from the sky and smashed the shrine, or some such rumor. But there's no such thing as purple lightning, much less lightning that could smash a shrine and even destroy the reef.
まさかそんな
そういうことよ。わらわの復活を祝ってあの社を岩礁ごと吹き飛ばさせてもらったのよ。しかしあれほどの威力とは。社が吹き飛べば上等と思っていたが、まさか岩礁ごと吹き飛ばすとはな。人間の生み出した武器も実に恐ろしいものだぞ。
状況は理解したよ。それで君はここへ私たちを招いてその話を聞かせた。それに対し何を求めていると言うんだね。普通ならばそれに対し金でも要求するのかと考えるところだが、そこに山と積まれている黄金があるように、君がお金に困っているようには到底見えん。そして私の命が目的ならさっさと奪っているはずだ。まさかメイドの土産を気取って六軒島の秘密を聞かせてくれたわけではないと思うのだがね。
Kraus tried to act as calm as possible. Certainly, as his every word slightly quivered, his nervousness and agitation still hadn't cooled down. However, the amount of gold piled there and the story about a massive amount of explosives that could blow up the whole island, that way too, abnormal reality, made the scene before his eyes also feel more like an event happening on the other side of the TV screen. In some sense, that might have let him regain his composure. Moreover, thinking more calmly, he had been declared that the means of contacting the outside world had already been severed. Furthermore, it's also understood that the typhoon would isolate the island for a period of 2 days. There was nowhere to run. On the whim of this golden witch worthy of inheriting Ushiromiya Kinzo's madness, everyone in Rokenjima could be blown to smithereens. For Natsuki to understand this, she would probably need to cool her head for a while more. However, Kraus was already starting to calmly accept it.
君はこれから何かの条件と引き換えに、それがどのようなものか、私には皆目見当もつかないが、可能な限り交渉に応じるつもりだ。
ほう、意外にも理解が早くて助かるぞ。
おそらくそれは断りがたいものだろう。何しろ今の私たちは島丸ごとを君に人質に取られているも同然なのだからね。
その通りだ。爆発から逃れる方法は2つしかない。1つはわらわしか知らない方法によって次元装置を解除すること。もう1つはこの格子の向こうの地下通路より島の反対側へ行き、爆発を逃れることのみだ。見ての通り、この格子の施錠も我が手中にある。いずれの方法で生き残るにせよ、わらわを拒むことなどできんのだ。
I mean, it is pretty logical. Though, you know, I have been thinking that I've been thinking if there are actually other ways of escaping the explosion besides the things that are the two that are being explained here by Beatrice. I guess it's because of that Ariakey video that I've done. Like if there are other ways of escaping the explosion. And I haven't really found like any other means.
分かっているとも。私たちも自分の命は惜しい。しかし同時に、君も私たちに何らかの協力を得なければならないらしい。次元爆弾と黄金という最高の切り札を2枚も持つ君が、私たちに首を縦に振らさなければならない都合があるらしい。
いいともクラウスよ。そなたが望むならそうしようではないか。これは脅迫ではない。取引だ。わらわはそなたたちの協力を得たい。
先に見返りを聞こうではないかね。
この黄金の山のすべてと家族の命を保証しよう。ただしそれ以外の一切は諦めてもらうがな。
それ以外の一切という意味をもう少し詳しく伺いたいね。
そのままの意味だ。何しろこの島のすべては吹き飛ぶのだからな。
Klaus and Natsuki both were shocked at such an outrageous proposition. For a time they lost their composure, but even still it was an offer that couldn't be refused. Klaus calmed Natsuki and regained his cool. He retorted that if the island were to blow up, there wouldn't be enough time to carry out the gold. Bato held out the card to an underground safe at a bank. This was what Bato had turned into cash so far. In an underground vault beneath the bank's head office slept 1 billion yen stuffed in an attache case. Okay, well, this was something that was talked about in episode 4. Like, Angie had access. Well, Angie was investigating it, and Eva had access to it for sure, from what I remember. By holding out that card, she guaranteed Kraus 1 billion yen. Kraus found it hard to believe that there really was 1 billion yen in that safe. But money can't buy the lives of his family. Once again, after disputing with Natsuki, he was dispirited and warm. In exchange for his family's absolute safety, Kraus reluctantly offered up his cooperation. Of course, there was self-interest too. The island being blown away would probably be treated as an accident. And along with that, without any relatives, the investigation directed at him would become unresolvable. Of course, this includes Kinzo's death too. Nearly all the troubles they bear would be gone. And even supposing there isn't 1 billion yen in the safe, there's a lot of money on Kinzo's life insurance plan. Natsuki was hesitant, but to Kraus, it wasn't a bad deal. Suppressing the guilty part of his conscience, Kraus argued that there was no other way to protect Jessica.
それで私たちに何をしろというのですか。
協力するとは言ったが、 おかしな犯罪の片棒は担げんよ。
Krausenatsu said, completely drained.
わらわはとある人物をもてなすためにある芝居を上演したい。
ある物語？
そやつとわらわは推理小説をたしなみ、互いに議論を交わした仲よ。
That guy, being Beller.
ゆえにその6年ぶりの帰りを祝って極上のミステリーで歓迎してやりたいのだ。
It would seem that on this island shot off by a typhoon, Bata wants to put on some kind of bizarre play. Their role is to obey the scenario she prepared, so that the story will stay consistent. In other words, to become characters in her play, to act and speak only in accordance with her scenario. There apparently was nothing more required of them than that. Except all other things are forbidden. In the event that her story is interfered with, the safety of Krause's family is not guaranteed. The only way to escape the giant explosion is to get far away from the mansion grounds. Yeah, I guess there is a little bit of motivation behind it and some explanation when it comes to that, which I have thought of before. Is that, okay, whoever is an accomplice is being forced by Beatrice to do this. If you don't do this, then even you and your daughter or son will be dead. But you know what? You are gonna be a part of this because, well, what choice do you even have? Either everyone is gonna die or everyone else is gonna die. So if it comes to that, might as well just go along and do the killing yourself so that you and your son or daughter wouldn't be killed by this. So yeah, there is that kind of motivation. It's probably one of the first motivations that you can think of once you discover that the bomb, once you not discover, but rather once you think of the bomb as being part of this, like once you think of that as being part of this, then that's one of the first things that you would think of. The only way to do that is to escape the opposite side of the island by the tunnel out from the underground VIP room. And that underground tunnel is blocked by a locked metal grate. Only Beato holds the key. And Beato promises that after everything is over, she will hand that key over to Kraus. The whole story was dangerous and shady all over. No, perhaps this was a necessary aspect for a play. She, in exchange for all the gold, was saying she wanted help just for one last play. Or perhaps sideshow. The dress of the witch in the portrait that she wore, and her whimsical smile, are perhaps joys only permitted to those who solve the mystery of the epitaph. Kraus continued to press for his family's safety, that when that promise was broken, all cooperation ceases. And to that Beato would once again say that if they didn't follow the scenario provided, not a single person would survive, while scowling at them with a crazy laugh. And with that, Kraus and Natsuki had been made complacent. The cooperation of all the servants and of Nanjo had already been arranged. Okay, so they are going with the idea that all the servants and Nanjo are cooperating in this as well. The preparations for the game board were now complete. And finally, the story begins. Are we gonna have like a murder mystery to solve in this as well? Let's see.
とにかく親父が降りてこねえことには始まらねえ。
まったくだわ。私たちは兄さんと話しに来たんじゃない。お父様と話をしに来たのよ。
Kraus quietly bore all the harsh words of the siblings. He couldn't do anything extraneous. He must behave in accordance with the scenario provided to him by the witch. In the scenario, he was to wait until midnight, which was soon to be. Then they heard the chime of the banquet hall's grandfather clock. It's midnight. It's time for that witch's scenario to take motion. At midnight, there will be a knock on the door of the dining hall. Knock, knock. And there it was.
誰だね?
He meant to say it nonchalantly, but he came out slightly nervous.
失礼いたします。源氏でございます。
He is also a person following Beatrice's scenario.
あら、源氏さん。どうしたのこんな時間に。
Okay. This actually reminds me of episode 4 as well. Because... Actually, was there like any other episode where this kind of scenario played? Well, more than likely in the first episode you would think that is something that also happened. Like at midnight. Like the culprit would talk to the victims and the accomplices and, you know, the murdering would begin. But more specifically episode 4. It was when we seen Kinzo like here coming and talking to everybody, and thus the whole murdering and teleportation thing happened. And I have theorized that it wasn't actually Kinzo, but rather the current headmaster. Actually, I think that was also like one of the red shoes, that the headmaster was the one who came here, but no, it wasn't actually specifically Kinzo, but the current headmaster, which would be the culprit, which would be Sayo and all that. So that's something that I have thought about as well before. Let's see if... let's see how they're going to interpret this.
ちょうどよかった。少し喉が渇いてたんや。この辺で少しお茶でももらって休憩しようやないか。
Genji, after signaling to Crosswell look, deeply lowered his head to everyone and made the announcement.
皆様方、親方様が書斎にお呼びでございます。
Everyone was stunned by his words. Eva doubted even the existence of Kinzo, but that very person was summoning everyone to his study.
どういうことよ、これは。
知らんよ。親父殿の気まぐれは今も昔もどうにもならんね。
All according to plan. This is the part where I lead everyone to the study. And then in front of the study, he and Natsuki will specifically be told to wait. Okay. The part where you lead everyone to the study. Oh, I guess that's an interesting way of doing it. And that's where you will explain everything?
お待ちを。旦那様と夏日様はこちらでお待ちくださいませ。
The study. Like, I guess that that would actually make a lot more sense a little bit. But then again, nah, it's not necessarily a detail that is very important. Because, okay, you can think that bringing everybody to the study room for them to discover the new headmaster would actually make more sense than for them to discover it like in the dining hall. Because, for example, like there could be the risk of George or Jessica or Maria just waking up and stumbling into the dining hall and see the new headmaster without and the culprit would be surprised by this, but it's not really. I don't think it's really important. Like whether some other extra party discovers the culprit like much earlier, they would die as well nonetheless. And there is no denying it that some people have died in the dining hall in episode 4. So the meeting definitely happened in the dining hall. It's like, well, at least in episode 4 specifically. So it doesn't really matter. This is just another interpretation of how of how the meeting happened. It could be in the study room, it could be in the dining hall, it could be in the chapel. It doesn't really matter. Like, it could be anywhere. Like, it's just that this confession decides to have the meeting in, like, the study room. Natsuki didn't say a thing, silently casting her eyes at the floor. Seeing this, Eva smiled triumphantly.
あら、これはどういうことなのかしら。